Okay, namaste. Welcome back. Thank you for joining day two at looking at the Buddha nature within. So yesterday we're working with the breath, and you can see the breath is this kind of term of like the training wheels. So at first, this is what we need. We need our walking stick in order for us to be able to get to the destination that we need to be, and so we can at that point have that vantage point to look out. So today we're going to get to that vantage point, and we're going to look out and see and look at what it is that we're actually working with here. So the breath is something that I'd like to talk about a little bit more. So the breath can be used as a tool to begin to navigate through life and to keep ourselves present with what we're doing. So whilst you're moving through life, whilst you're walking, whilst you're in conversation with somebody, and as you're doing these things like making a cup of tea, be aware of the breath. As you're walking the dog, be aware of the breath. As you're writing or looking at something, be aware of the breath. As you're in a moment of deep discussion, or you're feeling a sense of anger or feeling a sense of frustration, anxiety, pressure, watching the news, all of these things, see if you can stay aware of the breath, stay present with what you're doing. Because when we start to focus or shift our attention into the past, we begin to bring up this sense of anxiety, this sense of wishing things were different. And then when we start to think about the future, we begin to stress out a little bit. We start to worry about what's going to be happening, this great unknown. But in the present, we're free from all of that. We're free from this fear and this anxiety. And in this moment, we're essentially allowing ourselves to really unfold the peace that is really what is the present moment. So the breath is always going to be in the present. It's never in the past or the future. It's always here and now. And as you're working and doing these breath exercises, and you're inviting the breath into more areas of your life, you'll begin to notice that the breath also has a very deep relationship to the physiology and the chemistry of the body. So when we find ourselves very relaxed and comfortable, the breath is long, the breath is relaxed, the breath is deep, the breath is nice and rhythmic, and the heart rate also follows that same pattern. The hormones within the body are fairly equanimous and balanced. And then when we find ourselves getting stimulated, when we find ourselves the adrenals rise, a stress certain experience arises, we have anger within the body that arises, and the breath begins to shorten. So the breath becomes shallow, becomes restricted, and the breath also rises into the chest, and we begin to constrict ourselves. So the breath and the physical body begins to get smaller. And the hormones within the body, the reactions within the body, the glands within the body will begin to secrete to protect you from that, because we go into this kind of fight or flight motion, and it's very difficult to operate in a conscious, understanding, compassionate level when we're in that fight or flight. We're in this kind of survival mode, and a lot of the time before we don't even know we operate in that. So can we become aware of the breath before that begins to happen? So we can begin to recognize my breath is changing, therefore what is happening, am I reacting to something, to a situation, to a sensation, to something external? And can I return to the breath, to use the breath as a way to apply an equal and opposite energy to calm yourself and bring yourself back to the present. So the present is this very beautiful place to just allow yourself to be, without having to go anywhere, without having to do anything, without having to create or change anything. It just is. So this isness, this presence, is what we're going to look at today at a deeper platform whilst in meditation. So when we work with the breath, we see that the breath will begin to take us to a point where we can concentrate and so deeply on the happenings of the incoming and outcomings of the breath that it's like the whole universe comes to just be present in that moment. We come to just exist in that single point. And it's a really beautiful place, but it's not the end goal. As nice as it may seem, very quickly a thought or a reaction, a sound or something, someone comes knocking on your door, it will change, and then we go back to the old habit pattern of the mind. So it's a very important signpost along the way, but it is not the final goal. So once we get to this point of real deep concentration, deep samadhi, deep one-pointedness, we begin to see the stillness of the mind at this point. And like with all training wheels, they're there for a temporary amount of time. At that point, we can let them go. Now, letting them go completely is not what we're asking to do. What I'm asking to do is to keep them there as a reference when the mind begins to get agitated again. But when you're finding the mind finds that stillness, finds that equanimity, finds that balance, and that samadhi, that deep concentration, that unwavering awareness, even if it's for a very short temporary amount of time, just a momentary awareness, can you let go? Can you let go into it and begin to witness the stillness, the vastness of the nature of the mind in that place? Void of thoughts, void of emotions, void of trying, void of attaining something, void of going anywhere, but simply letting go and resting into what it is, resting into the nature of the mind. And a really nice metaphor in this one is like the lake. So when the ripples of the lake are moving, the mountains and the trees, it's difficult to see the image. But when the ripples of the lake are still, like a crystal clear lake, you can see the reflections of the moon, you can see the reflections of the stars, you can see the reflections of all the mountains and the landscape. But you can also see to the depth of the bottom of the lake. So the mind is like this lake. So when the ripples of the mind, the thoughts and the emotions and the feelings begin to get stilled, we can also see the reflection of what's happening. We can see the mirror, we can see the nature of the mind, but we can also see the depth of the mind. We can go to the very bottom. It becomes clear and transparent. Now, in this kind of clear, transparent spaciousness that we're looking at here, it's something that comes from being effortless. So these techniques that we're going through, it's not something that we're trying to attain. It's not something that we're trying to grow or to reach enlightenment. It's really, enlightenment is already here. Enlightenment is turning the light on. It's the simple part. It's the first part. The following after the enlightenment and maintaining enlightenment, this is the development of becoming a very conscious, aware human. And when we're in this place and you're witnessing the nature of the mind, you're witnessing this lake, you're witnessing the stillness, and the what we call emptiness is really, it's not empty, it's a nothingness. And nothingness as in not like void or no substance, but no thingness. So it doesn't have a subjective platform in order for it to operate on. And what this means is that there's two realities. The first reality is the relative reality. So the relative reality is everything which is continuously changing. So this is the universe. This is the stars, the planets, the solar systems, the galaxies, the human body, matter. even the thoughts and the mind, these are all temporary existences based on that in which is being observed, or the person that is observing them. So we see this in quantum physics. As soon as we observe something, it changes the experiment. It changes the matter just because one is observing it. Whereas the ultimate reality, or this deeper reality, is like a canvas, is the background in which the universe is painted. So this pure potentiality is what we're going to be meditating on. This emptiness, this no-thingness, without conceptualizing what's going on, without giving a name, without identifying what is being experienced, but just resting in that naked awareness and opening up into that relaxation of what the nature of the mind truly is. So there'll be these moments where we're using our training wheels of the breath. We'll use this for a few moments. So as you're meditating to begin with, use the training wheels, use the breath, and then let go of the breath and see if you can rest the mind once it becomes still. And it will be temporarily still before a thought comes. Before this thought comes, see if you can begin to ask and contemplate this space. Contemplate what is the nature of the mind. Contemplate what is this clarity. Can I see this clearness? Can I penetrate and witness the brightness and the luminosity that is experienced from this nature of emptiness? And then when a thought arises, rather than returning back to the breath, see if you can begin to see where this thought comes from. See if you can begin to see what is the nature of this thought, how long it lasts, and then where does it go back to. And then in this way, we see that these thoughts and these emotions and these feelings which are continuously coming in and coming out, they're void of any substance. They're purely just a momentary existence that come for some time, stay for a little while, and then at some point subside and pass and return to where they've come from. So rather than being caught up in the thoughts, being caught up in the emotions, being caught up in this kind of roller coaster of feelings, can we begin to sit back and rest in this naked awareness? Sit back and rest in this open consciousness, this relaxation of our true nature, and witness enlightenment unfolding from this very pure, relaxed place. So without effort, without trying, be lazy. This is kind of the shortcut, or the lazy man's way to enlightenment. It's just turning the light on, turning the switch on. And as you're witnessing this flourishment, this openness, this clarity, this luminosity, and this depth of the mind, this empty void space, can you begin to see that for a very short amount of time, the emptiness of the thoughts, the emptiness of the mind? And then can you begin to see the emptiness of the physical matter? Can you begin to see that everything, even on the subatomic level, the atoms themselves and the space between the atoms is 99.999% empty? Everything that we experience is truly, in its ultimate reality, empty. Everything that comes and moves and stays for some time is relative. But can we remain in this ultimate truth of no-thingness, of openness, of relaxation, of clarity, and absolute truth? And can we see that this truth is who we are, is our Buddha nature, is what it is that takes us out of emotion, takes us out of reaction, and brings us into our Dharma, brings us into our purpose, brings us into our deeper clarity of what we're here to be doing, to live a life that we can really offer our gift